What's up, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. Let's get into the books I read this week. We're going to start over in DC with Aquaman issue number 8. We have Jeremy Adams on this one. We have Tim's on the art as well. So this is a pretty straightforward story where basically Aquaman goes around. He's trying to rescue his family. He's trying to save his society. He keeps running into obstacles. Every single chapter of this book, every issue of this book, he gains new allies, obtains new powers, new artifacts, and whatnot to take on whatever threat there is. But this is the boss fight issue right here. And there is an ascension to Aquaman's power that we see inside of here, handled fairly well. I would say it's a little bit ambiguous. It's a little bit hard to put your hands on necessarily. So I think that could have been handled a little bit better, right? We got to exactly see what Arthur is using to level up and take on the threats inside of the story. But I would say overall, the delivery of it is pretty cool. It's a pretty straightforward book. Like I mentioned, though, the art is really interesting because it has to do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? We're underwater. We have a lot of interesting magic and sorcery and powers and explosions underwater with that scenery, that landscape, that vibe and feel. So I think they do a great job of capturing all that inside the art. The story is episodic with a lot of repetition to it overall, and I want to see the end game of this entire thing. We got a little hint in the dialogue to the broader dark side story going on here with All In, but not enough to really give us a lot of clues as to where we're going necessarily. I kind of forgot what happened in issue number 1 at this point because of the journey that we're on right here. So I need that connective tissue. It's very loosely based on what's going on in the broader scheme of DC right now, which I hope they hone in on future issues. But issue number 8 is out, kind of putting a conclusion to this arc right here in a way. We're probably gonna have some wrap-up issues and whatnot, something to set us off in the next direction. Anxious for that. Let me know what you guys thought, though, down below. Next up is Batman Dark Patterns issue number 9, Hayden Sherman, and we have Dan Waters on the writing over here. Got these awesome Ashley Wood variants because they're so cool. Ashley Wood does an amazing job on the cover work inside of here, but this is a great detective story. I don't really know what else I have to say. Every issue that comes out is spectacular. Batman's been tracking down this old gang that's been retired for decades right now in basically this alley that's kind of like the Narrows inside of this Gotham. Again, we have like a younger Bruce in here, younger Batman, and he's still very much in that detective mode with not all the fancy gadgets that we see today inside of Batman. So he's basically trying to track down this old gang and whatnot. He's been held captive. He actually was kind of taken out in the previous issue. And we got a little history lesson on the gang, some of the members, some of the activity that was going on, and like what is driving this need to maintain that illusion that the gang is still around. So Batman does a lot of cool detective work throughout this story. The old man that we're introduced into the story right here, he's got some grandkids that are kind of sucked into this entire world as well. And that's been an interesting piece to kind of go through because you don't really necessarily know like their true intentions, their motives. They're just kids. They're being brainwashed, whatever it might be. That was a cool little element thrown into the story. There are some high stakes in here. We don't exactly know how we're going to get out of certain situations, and some really tragic things happen throughout the story. And it just sucked me in completely. And I've been really digging everything about Dark Patterns right now. The conclusion of the third arc is right here. We have 10, 11, and 12 coming up very soon to wrap this up. Get the hardcover collected if they ever put it out. It's an amazing book. Let me know if you read it. Next up from DC is Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum issue number 1 from the creative team of Ice Cream Man. I never thought I'd be able to say that. I am so excited for this series to continue right here. First off, what an amazing cover right there. Very reminiscent of like a Frank Quietly clean line, thin line, beautiful colors and everything. The aesthetic of the book and the interior art as well is awesome. Love that. The story is great too. So take that W. Maxwell Prince psychological horror that we're used to inside of Ice Cream Man, apply it to here, but give it that DC, that Superman filter over it, and we get an amazing story. A lot of cool Easter eggs and just familiar tones inside of here. Batman in his fortress, doing some experiments, finding some new kryptonite on the kryptonite spectrum, you know, utilize his detective chops to figure things out. The main premise of the book right here is to essentially test these different forms of kryptonite that have been discovered. What kind of lasting effects will they have on Superman? That's the idea inside this story. So Batman's along for the ride, at least for this issue right here, as we're testing the first flavor of kryptonite here, which alters Superman's ability to process time. So they go into some battles. He's seeing the future. He's seeing it in clips. He's hearing dialogue that hasn't happened yet. And eventually he has to work through how to piece it all together. So it's got, again, that like psychological horror element filtered into this book, and I absolutely love that approach. I can see this book going in a lot of different directions. I'm really anxious to see what the other forms of Kryptonite do. What other heroes in the DC Pantheon are we going to see aiding Superman, and what other kind of villains are going to be popping up in the background? That's going to be really exciting to unpack all of that and just experience. I just can't wait for it. So as you can tell, I'm really excited for this book, and I cannot wait for the subsequent issues to come out. Let me know if you guys read this one and what your thoughts were down below. All right, let's go over to Marvel next. We have Predator Kills the Marvel Universe, Benjamin Percy on this one, issue number 1 right here. So this is actually a continuation to a bunch of other Marvel books related to Predator, right? So most recently we had Predator versus Spider-Man. This takes place right after that, and some of the consequences of that series rolls over into here. So if you're reading this one and you haven't read the other ones, you might be like, well, how did that person get there? And how does that Predator have that technology? Things like that. You really have to read those books to kind of get caught up, but you could just assume how they got there, and that'll be great too. But if you have read the Predator vs. Spider-Man run that just ended, you will know that Kraven was a key component of that entire series. Really great conclusion with that character specifically and how he interacts with Predators going forward. It definitely carries over into this run to the point where he's actually kind of like their battle commander, feeding them all the information about the different heroes across the Marvel landscape and who to take out specifically in what kind of order, so Predator can achieve its ultimate goal of essentially taking over Earth. And I will say it is a kills the universe kind of book, so there will be deaths immediately inside the book. Deaths that happen in pretty haphazard ways, I would say. And so don't be connected to any Marvel heroes inside of the story, because we take out several in this first issue right here. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you want bombastic kinds of issues and you just want to experience that, this might be the book for you. Predator Kills the Marvel Universe number 1. Let me know if you guys read it. Next up is the Fantastic Four issue number 2, Ryan North on this one, continuing his series that ended in the 30s with a new number 1. This is the second issue from that new release right there. So we had a pretty generic opening to this arc, I would say. Basically, Fantastic Four taking on Doom. Who would have thought? Doom displacing them individually throughout different points in time. Luckily, Reed has come up with some kind of device to bring everybody back to the same timeline. So the first issue is basically an orientation of everybody, where they are, what kind of threats they're up against, and them trying to initially find this time stone or whatever it might be to get them all back home. This issue right here, though, is a continuation of that storyline right there, mostly focusing on Sue because she's the furthest out right now, and the thought is that if this artifact or stone still exists, everybody has already utilized it through their moments in time, and it's still there for her to use and bring her back home. So it's a mostly Sue Storm-centered book, and it was a pretty interesting take, I would say. I think the story does fall apart when they get back to their current timeline and they re-engage Doom. Doom throws a curveball at them, and they have to just figure out how to get out of this time loop that they're ultimately in at that moment. So again, I just don't feel a whole lot of meat on the bone with the story, to be honest with you. I don't know if I want to hear this kind of Fantastic Four story, which is a shame because the movie came out. There's a lot of hype, and I just want something different. I don't know if I want this story necessarily, especially coming onto a new run like this one, having rebooted from the 30s previously. I will say the art is pretty cool, although we focus mostly on Sue Storm and her desolate kind of a rocky landscape environment right there. There are some other pages focusing on other characters and whatnot, but I haven't got a true sense of this artistic take necessarily, so we're going to see more about that later. But I mean, overall, I just don't know if I have a lot of hype for the book. It's a good book if it's a slow week, but if there's a lot of books coming up that week, this might be one of the easier ones to pass on. I want to know what you guys thought, though, of this issue. If you read it, let me know down below. Continuing Marvel, let's go over to the Ultimates issue number 15. Dennis Camp on this one, and I've been loving this series so far. It's very episodic, but it's always really interesting because they can really spend a lot of time with these Ultimate characters. They can show us things we haven't seen before. They can really lean in to their mythology and everything else, or kind of change things up as they see fit. And it's been really fun just to kind of see where this book goes. This book I was really excited for because we have basically the Ultimate Iron Fist in here. He's showcased to be a complete badass inside the story, living forever, turning into myth and legend in the story, taking on the role of this ultimate protector and this guy that everyone looks up to, even worships in certain parts of the story. So the Ultimates want to bring him on board, at least figure out what is going on with this guy right here. And of course, we have some villains showing up trying to wreck our day in the process. And that's kind of where the book falls apart, to be honest, because the whole issue was kind of set up that this ultimate Iron Fist would be this great ally, this insane piece to put on that board, right? And we didn't really get a whole lot of that besides the origin story for the character, or more of like his earlier actions. Then we get wrapped up into some of the Maker's Council and some of the resources and some of the villains that he has, and it didn't really finish that thread. So I was a little bit disappointed in the ending of the story. That's not to say that there wasn't a lot of crazy stuff that happened in there. It is action packed. There are some like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened kind of moments in here, but it more involved characters that I just didn't really care about too much in the story so far. We just got introduced to Iron Fist. I want to see more of that character and how he's going to influence the story. We didn't get that in here, so maybe we're going to get it in the next issue. At least we got an introduction to the character who's really cool inside of here. Let me know what you guys thought though down below. All right, let's go over to Dynamite for the next book. We have Captain Planet, the Planeteers issue number 3. David Papo's on this one, doing incredible work on Speed Racer and Space Ghost as well. So highly recommend checking those out. But Captain Planet issue number 3. So he's continuing this like more adult themed drama inside the story. Very familiar vibes from his other books that he's putting out. And I really appreciate that because this subject matter, this IP in particular, kind of far-fetched, can lead kind of hacky, but he's taking a really cool approach to this, and I appreciate that. I really enjoyed the pacing of the series too. So in issue number 1, we basically get the landscape, right? We understand what the power is with Captain Planet and Gaia and everything else, and who the Planeteers have historically been and the power sets behind them. Issue number 2 brings our team together to take on some initial threat, but in issue number 3, we're a little bit more coordinated. We attack with purpose inside of here, we get knocked down a little bit, and we have some scrimmaging going on with inside the team as well that we're gonna have to reconcile, and we get introduced to some more villains at the same time. So I think they're doing a good job of pacing this series out, and it doesn't feel like we're dragging in any certain aspect of it. But from a story perspective, I think they're doing a great job of setting the stage, understanding who the characters are, and they're being true to the characters that I remember in the TV show growing up. So I think it's a great representation of the IP. It's being handled pretty well so far. I like the pacing, everything. The art, I think, needs to catch up a little bit, but I really am enjoying what I'm reading so far inside of Captain Planet. Let me know if you guys are reading it. Staying with Dynamite, we have Space Ghost issue number 1 right here. We already talked about the man. David Papo's on this one. We have Jonathan Lau on the art. So if you're confused about this is a continuation of the previous arc. We're just going into a new number 1 with this new series right here. So we had volume 1, we had a annual. Now we're going to jump inside of this one. But again, it's continuing everything that we learned in the previous issues. But it is a good place to jump in if you haven't jumped in yet. With that said, though, I would highly recommend going back and reading volume number 1 and the annual that just came out, because you're going to learn a lot about the current landscape, the characters involved, who the villains are that we've seen already, and we get a taste of like where we're headed with the villains inside of this as well. The layout for this issue is really cool because it's bouncing back and forth between 2 different events, essentially. We have Space Ghost taking on whatever threat it is with Blip, and then we have the kids actually interacting with a supposed relative of theirs, their grandfather on their mother's side, that they haven't seen since they were kids or babies or whatever. So there's a lot of interesting things being talked about from their point of view. He wants to bring them in. He misses the idea of being a family unit and everything, but you don't quite know if you can trust this guy. The kids, though, have been growing up in a completely different environment, getting even their own powers and everything like that to essentially save the world. So when it comes down to picking sides, that's what this is really about. Do you want to stay in and embrace this family unit, or do you want to continue delivering justice throughout the galaxy with this new ally that you found, this new family that you found? So that's really the point of this issue. I'm still blown away by the artwork and the coloring and just the action inside this book. It is definitely not a boring read. I mean, every single page gives you something interesting to look at, and it has cool layouts and everything too. So again, they're taking this IP that could be hacky and corny, but they're putting it underneath a certain lens. They're giving this drama to it. They're making it feel more adult, and they're just executing it so well. So props to the team, guys, again, for making a great book right here. Space Ghost number 1. Let me know if you're reading it. Let's go over to Titan Comics. We have Conan the Barbarian issue number 23. Jim Zub on this one. Of course, it's Panosian time, baby. We got a great Panosian cover right here. Previous issues of Conan, we had him kind of being the champion of this battle arena situation. He's serving this one sorceress who's rising through the ranks right now, and she's basically just using Conan to achieve higher status, trying to please her lord at the same time. We have some old, assumingly villains that turned friends. We have Zula, the guardian of the grassland, showing up to Conan's aid. They're going to go undercover right now to kind of see who's pulling the strings, what is exactly going on, what is happening in this area. And in doing so, they realize the true power behind all of this chaos that's been going on right now with some incredible artwork, to say the least. Here's just a sample of some of the brilliant scenes you get to see with inside this issue and this whole run in general. So I definitely think it's a book that if you're a long-term Conan fan, you're going to be eating this up. You're eating well right now if you're a Conan fan with Savage Sword and everything. There's lots of great references, pulling past characters from past arcs and everything into this and rolling it into a really cool story. But if you're a new reader to Conan 2, you're given all the context clues you need to understand who these characters are. You understand there's a backstory with all of these characters when it relates to Conan, so you don't feel lost. You don't feel like you're missing out, and it makes you want to go back and read different stories, which I think is a really cool thing. This issue has a heist kind of vibe. You know, we're going to infiltrate, we're going to get information or whatever, and we're going to get out of there. We're on a timer, and we need to escape as well, alive. And that's exactly what happens here, but at what cost? Who else is looking for Conan and team? We're going to be figuring that out in subsequent issues. This is continuing to be an amazing run. Highly recommend checking it out. Let me know if you did. Let's hop over to Image for the remaining books. We have the Unchosen issue number 2, David Marquez on this one. We have Marissa Louise on this as well. So if you're into books with a magical element, you want that mystical arts vibe, this might be the book for you. Of course, it has to deal with a younger woman who's trying to figure out her past, trying to figure out who her family was, why certain people are after her, and she gets wrapped into this new school or organization or whatever it might be to enhance her powers, you know, join the ranks and try to save the world, essentially. So we get a little bit more orientation on our main character, what her history was, but we haven't gotten all the clues just yet. But we know she's not exactly happy where she is right now. She doesn't quite trust everybody around her. And this issue, we get introduced to the higher beings, the higher leadership, the higher mystic arts folks in this organization who are trying to help unlock some of her power. And I'm going to be anxious to see like where that goes. How powerful will she become? Is she a prophesized child like we probably assume she's going to be? And how does she deal with that power? Does she use it for good? Does she use it for evil? I'm sure there's going to be some twists and turns throughout the story, but if you're into that kind of a story, Unchosen might be for you. It has great magical elements, a lot of mystery still around it, and a lot of opportunity for some twists and turns, I would say. So if you're into that kind of thing, you might want to check out this one. We got issue number 2 out. Let me know if you read it. Next up from Image, we have Blood and Thunder issue number 4 right here. Lots of creators on this one. We have Sereno and Sue. I know Kirkman has a hand in the creation of this as well. It was a pretty interesting first couple of issues, I would say. Maybe even issue 3, but it had this repetitive nature to it that was kind of annoying. So in issue number 4, though, we've completely dropped the whole narrative of the first 3 issues, basically. And we're more focused on these local myths and legends of these beasts that would come out when thunderstorms would come by and they would feed on the innocents and things like that. So this real scientific-based community in this one planet is under attack right now. They're getting their homes broken into. They think there's things missing. There's certain books and whatnot. They can't piece it all together just yet. So they go on the hunt for this beast, very much like a Universal Monsters kind of approach to this, which was kind of cool, but completely separate from what we've seen so far in the story, which was a little bit jarring for me. At the end of the day, we're really gonna have to see where this storyline goes and how it actually connects with the first 3 issues, but essentially it's like reading a totally separate book at this moment. I haven't been able to make those connections just yet. If you have, let me know down below in the comments, but it felt really jarring, like I said before, and so I didn't really dig it. This wasn't the story I was hoping for. I want to see more of Blood and Thunder taking on some crazy aliens and dealing with the landscape that they're in, but we didn't get it inside this issue, so a little bit of a letdown. Let me know what you guys thought. Continuing Image, we have Transformers issue number 23, the penultimate edition of the Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona run. I'm gonna be really sad to see this one go, but this is a great issue right here, I would say. This is actually the beginning, so to speak, of the ultimate battle between the Decepticons and the Autobots. It all starts right here inside this issue. It's been building up for so long, but we actually do get that moment where these two armies clash together inside of here. You might be asking, like, where's Optimus in this whole situation? He's going through this journey right now. Basically, his soul is in this one place, and he's among the primes at this moment. He actually finds someone. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but he finds an ally within there that helps him navigate through the situation that he's in right now and kind of get reoriented, re-energized, and back into the battle. Interior artwork looks great in here, as always. Jorge Corona doing a great job. Mike Spicer just killing it on the colors, of course. And yeah, like I said, this is the issue where we have both armies clashing together. This issue has a lot of moments in it where it brings that classic Daniel Warren Johnson emotion and vibe to it, I would say, that really can't be replicated from other other writers, he has this way about him of bringing that energy, that almost tear-jerking scenes into his books, and you definitely get it scattered through this one right here. So if you've been waiting for the Autobots and Decepticons to come head to head with all of their armies at full force, man, this is going to be the issue for you right here. I can't wait to see the conclusion of this run, how we wrap it up in just one more issue, and what it means going forward with the new creative team and everything. What's that landscape look like? We're going to hear about it pretty soon. Let me know what you guys thought about this one down below. Next up is Bug Wars issue number 6, Jason Aaron on this one. The conclusion of the first arc right here. Where are we going to go from here? I don't exactly know, but they set up some breadcrumbs to show us what we might be in for, leaving the yard essentially and taking on the woods in subsequent series. This issue had moments where it felt a little bit rushed, I would say. We're just now understanding like the Slaymaker, is that his name? His power set, like the gem, what it means. There wasn't a whole lot of explanation behind that. It's a mystical element his father was utilizing to get control of the yard and learn more about the insects and everything else in the world, but it was passed down to his son somehow and hidden away, and now he's trying to understand that power. But it got a little muddy about the allegiances, like who is actually helping the kid, who's against who. Like everyone seems to be at war with each other. That's kind of the takeaway here. And it was a little bit of a jarring sensation going through this issue just from that point of view. I think over the last 6 issues, I've actually gotten a little bit desensitized on the gore and the violence and whatever else that happens inside the book, that I was kind of flipping through saying, yeah, more of that, which was a shame because the interior artwork is pretty incredible. I don't know if there was a lot to work with though with the writing that they were given. So it was action-packed. There's a lot of gore, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of revelations. The heart though really wasn't there, I don't think. It felt a little bit rushed to get through this issue number 6. It has me a little hesitant to pick up maybe a second volume. I might dip in and just see what the vibe is of it, but we have issue number 6 out right now. I'm interested to know if you guys read this whole thing, what'd you guys think about it? Are you going to pick up second volume? Let me know down below. Then wrapping things up, we have the Power Fantasy issue number 11 right here. I really wish I got the variant cover. I might have to go back and find that one. It had like an anime-ish kind of a vibe to it, and I really love the B covers for this whole series. Guys, this is the conclusion of this arc right here with dramatic fashion. The series will be coming back in October, so it gives you a little bit of time to read the first couple of volumes of this, and I highly recommend doing so. Really stick through on volume number 1, and I guarantee you'll fall in love with the series going forward. Now, this issue is all about the inevitable confrontation between all the different atomics. Of course, we have allegiances left and right. We have a mutual goal, though, of staying alive, but can we trust each other? That is the big question throughout the entire run so far, and at least one group of people suggest that they cannot, so they kind of plot behind the scenes to take out some key figures that have the ability to influence, control, or destroy everything, and so that's exactly what we pursue inside the issue here. Kieran Gillen's writing in this is absolutely perfect. It's balancing that fine line between tension building and release, and it just does such a great job of keeping you on your toes. You don't exactly know what's going to happen. There's all this plotting going on, all these very powerful people around, but just does a great job of balancing all that and just giving us these epic moments, like in this issue right here. Blew me away. Then complementary to that, the art style in here, Casper Wingard doing some of the best work I've ever seen him do, balancing those moments where you're in these weird landscapes or out in a football field, whatever it might be, just perfectly portraying what is going on and like what the reader is feeling emotionally in those scenes. Being able to juggle all of that is really awesome too. So I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens at the end of the story, but just know it's dramatic. It's been building up, and guys, there's some repercussions here and some things we learn at the very end of the story. What does it all mean? I can't wait to figure it out in subsequent issues. Number 11's out. Let me know if you guys read it. All right, that's all I read this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below what you picked up and what your favorite books of the week were. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted whenever I put out new videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.